I wanted to start this channel off with a little bit about myself and kind of share my story with you. For me, coming out and reconciling my faith and my trans identity, YouTube has been a huge help in that. So I'm hoping by sharing my story, I'll help others too. So I grew up in a small town in the suburbs of Boston. It was very Catholic, and I was raised Catholic, so I was always very involved in church life. I was always in youth group, volunteering. I taught religious education to young kids. I led summer camp, just things like that. I always thought that I was different from other people, but I didn't really know how or why. And just living in a small town, like even though my parents were pretty liberal and progressive, I just thought that this was the way of life. Like I was gonna grow up and get married and have kids and be straight and cis and live a pretty heteronormative life, and that was kind of it. Until I started an interest in photography. I did not get into an AP environmental science class in high school, and that was replaced by a photography darkroom class. And for me, that started a love. I fell in love with creating and expressing myself through art, and I decided I wanted to do that professionally. So I applied and I got into college in New York, and I moved to Brooklyn when I was 18. So living in Brooklyn was really the start, I think, of my queer journey, if you'll say. Moving out of my small town, away from my parents, away from my friends, it forced me to step out of my comfort zone, out of my bubble that I've been living in, and it really opened my eyes to show me that there is such a wide world out there, and there's not one way to live and one way to be, and I can be true in my identity, and I don't have to fit into any societal norm. So going to college in New York, it was interesting because suddenly I felt so open, and so my identity felt clear to me for the first time. I fell in love with who I fell in love with. I dated women, I dated non-binary people, and I just felt so free. But at the same time, I had a lot of queer friends who were really open and accepting of me, but they weren't really open to my Christian identity. And it was very hard to find a church community that was accepting of my queer identity as well, and had all of the aspects that I wanted in a religious experience. And I thought, I can't be the only one struggling with being a queer person and believing in a Catholic faith, like having a continuous belief in a God that never fails and still loves me even though I am who I am, because he created me that way and I'm his child. So through that adventure of trying to reconcile that, I decided to do my undergraduate thesis about being queer and Christian. At the time, I identified as gay. So I searched for other LGBTQ plus identifying people, and I interviewed them about their beliefs in God and their religion. And I actually did this through Tinder matches. So I met people on Tinder and I'd interview them and take pictures of them and record interviews, which shocked me that people are so open to letting strangers take pictures of them, because I would have definitely said no if someone had asked me. But I'm so grateful to everyone I spoke with and everyone that shared their story with me, because that really helped me realize that there is a need in the queer community and in the religious community to have an overlap that tells the story of a God that just loves us, instead of trying to change people or trying to make them shameful or guilty or silent about their true identity to fit into a societal norm. So I finished my undergraduate thesis and I graduated, and that was all well and good. I wrote a book and I had a gallery show, and I wrote a lot of poetry, and it was just a really inspiring time in my life. I graduated and I was lost. That was all over and done with, and I felt like I went through a rough patch. I don't know, I felt really lost. And that's kind of when I fell into the church I started going to for the next 2 years, living in Brooklyn and then Queens. I just really found a family there. And while the center church was not progressive and they weren't accepting of my identity, I found a lot of good friends that I could talk to that were open and willing to listen and wanted to learn more about being queer and what that meant in this Christian context and how we could better ourselves to accept more people. So that was really formative for me, and I'm so grateful to them as well. But I still struggled a lot because I wasn't seeing anyone that was like me in my social circles. I didn't know anyone that looked like me or believed like me, and that was hard. About a year ago, I was having some personal issues, and I started seeking the help of a therapist. By chance, I found a therapist that specialized in gender expression, which is something I had been thinking about for a long time, but didn't really have words for. And I think that the media portrays a certain image of trans people, and I definitely didn't fit that image. I'm very feminine. I love painting my nails. I wear makeup daily. I love my hair. I don't know. I just didn't fit the stereotypical, he knew he was a trans guy when he was a 4-year-old and refused to wear dresses. That wasn't me. I figure skated, I did dance. I was the girliest little kid, so I never thought that I could be trans. So, I don't know, going to therapy one-on-one really helped me a lot to realize that there are so many different types of trans people, and I can just be myself, and that's okay, and that doesn't invalidate my identity at all. I started going to a group thing with other trans masculine people, and all around it just opened my eyes to the wide variety of identities that there are, and who I can be and how I can express myself and how it's all okay. I don't have to fit into any box that people are trying to fit me into. So I came out as trans. I changed my name and pronouns. I use they, them pronouns. And with that came another mess of trying to figure out how that fit into my religion. Before I came out as trans, the one thing I really struggled with was reconciling that with my God. I think the Bible is, a lot of people quote it and make it very clear that there's Adam and Eve, one man and one woman, and that's not necessarily, one, that's not the true story of the Bible, and two, that is not great analysis for our society today. So I think that fueled my fire to further explore this idea of creating this community that I so longed for myself, growing up and even now. So recently I moved again, and I'm getting ready to start grad school studying theology. I'm so excited to delve deeper into theology and queer theory, and this community, creating a community for queer people, having a safe space where they can explore their faith life and explore their identity and find Jesus in the process is so important. Overall, I want to share the message with people that Jesus loves you, period. It's unconditional, and there's no exceptions. He tells us exactly who we are in the Bible, in his words, in music. and he created us in his image. And there's also no exceptions to that. I don't know, for a long time I just believed that he had made a mistake, or I was making a mistake, and I really thought that I was inherently evil, which is not true. And I just want to make sure that people know that those lies are lies, that those thoughts are not of God, and that he loves us as his children, and he just wants us to honor him in things that we do, and celebrate him in our lives. He accepts us fully, and that's a really important message that I want to put out there. So I want to create this safe space community. In my wildest dreams, it's a physical space. Right now, it's an online community, just starting out. And I can't wait to see how it grows and how I meet new people and where we go from here. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.